You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, Hopkinton, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I'm your host today, Mike Terosian. And we had a little bit of a schedule change. We're going to talk about the automotive repairs, but with the schedule change, so you got the HCAM team joining me today. Hi, guys.
Hey, hello.
Hello.
So we're here today, and we're going to be talking about, the quarantine lifestyle of today.
All things quarantine.
Yeah, all things quarantine. Oh my goodness. This is it's been hard. It's been tough. I'm not used to be sitting still for so long, except when I'm working at a edit station or something, or sitting behind the director's console. But this being at home is just awful. I look for every chance to go outside at least to stretch my legs and run around with the dog. How about you, Jim?
Definitely. In fact, I've said before that I've been taking more walks with my wife, and that actually has been really nice. You would not believe some of the birds that we've seen. My son is now really getting into, putting out different kind of feeders. We have oranges for Orioles, and he's getting some other kind of bird feeders. He actually wanted to have us have a mealworm farm in our house.
What?
But we vetoed that. Yesterday, my wife and I are walking out the door to go for a walk, and I see this red. And when I say red, it's like the red of a Coca-Cola bottle. It is vibrant red. At first, I thought it was a leaf or a piece of paper. And then I'm looking, and I saw it move. It was some kind of, I think, a scarlet tanager. It was the most vivid red bird I've ever seen in my life. I can't even believe it. I'm getting out more, and I think that's why I'm noticing those things.
Well, I've noticed a few little things going out, walking Kaya around as much. And what's nice is I remember to bring my phone with me because there's, something new out here on the street that, is put up, and I grab a picture, and I love sharing them on the HCAM website. But, Bob, how's this treating you? I mean, especially where being a retired person, where you don't have to go to work every day and punch a clock. What's it like for you?
Pretty much the same thing as every day. I get up in the morning. Jane and I go for a 3-mile walk. We come home. We get cleaned up. We watch a show, do some work around the house. Like today, I cleaned out my dryer vent. That needed to be done. As you know, as a fireman, it's important to keep your dryer vents clean.
Very, very important. Yes. So a lot of house fires do start because of a clogged dryer vent.
Yeah, actually, here's a picture of my daughter. This is what she's been doing every day. She's going out and she is taming the backyard.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
When was the last time you saw that fence back there?
I know. Well, you know what? That's we have these 3 paddock areas where people always had horses. And that's the back one. And 2 trees fell down and kind of wiped out a section of it. I don't know what we're going to do. But I'm curious to know what people are finding as they're going out now. Because remember a couple of weeks ago, there was all this fear and everybody was hoarding and all the shelves were empty. I'm really amazed that some of the stores still have really big empty areas of shelves. There's like no cleaning products. There's no paper products in there. And I found that surprising. What are you guys experiencing?
Well, I see the same thing. What little I go, I like using the delivery service from Price Chopper, which is an Instacart, I believe, that does this. And I like the idea knowing that you got the same person, working in the store like every day who's shopping and bringing you stuff. That's one less person, me being in the store, it's not that I'm a germaphobe of any form, but yeah, I am careful when I go out. I get the gloves, I get the mask, but if I don't have to go, I don't go. That's the way I look at it. But when I do go, I am surprised to see. What I was surprised was the pasta. One of these first weeks into this, the pasta aisle at Price Chopper was wiped out, with the exception of 2 boxes of lasagna noodles in those little. It's smaller than orzo. I don't know what the pasta's called for. It's for soup or something.
Yeah,
but it's smaller.
I think that makes sense. By the way, I know you speak with your hands, but you got to tame that because
Yeah,
this chroma key is harsh. And the thing I was thinking about that is, if everything shuts down, pasta is shelf stable, as they say. So you could have that for months.
I was just shocked just to see it all go. And, here I am. I just wanted some pasta, make some mac and cheese, homemade mac and cheese. So instead, I wound up getting the ricotta cheese and wound up making a lasagna because that's all they had.
Yeah.
So
now they're talking about protein shortages.
Yeah.
I went to Price Chopper this morning, and I saw that they do have started to fill up the pasta aisles. There's a lot more in there now than there have been in the past, but also there's absolutely no paper products.
Right. And pasta for you is like pasta for me. We're looking for gluten-free. Yeah. So that's even
harder.
Even harder.
Right. But that's why the gluten-free aisle, not just the gluten-free aisle, in the refrigerated side, down at the end there is practically empty of gluten-free items. And if they do have them, they're gluten-free items that we've never had before. So my wife is not likely to buy anything that she hasn't tried before. She's gone through a whole litany of manufacturers of products of gluten-free before she could find some that she liked. And then when she does, she sticks with it. She's not going to, let's try something else. That'd just be disappointing.
Matt, have you been getting out?
Yeah, I've been trying to. I try not to go to stores too much. I've gone to Target and I've gone to Price Chopper a few times to get stuff for myself. But mostly if I go out, I mostly just go for a bike ride around the loop road up at the schools, do a couple of loops around there. Honestly, the hardest part of this for me is I don't get to hang out with my friends anymore, obviously. But we still hang out online, so it's not too bad. But,
yeah, that's always good.
Yeah.
What are we seeing for signs of life outside? Is there anything happening now? I see people getting their lawn mowed. I see a lot of people still walking. What are other people saying?
I've seen the joggers. I've seen the dog walkers. I have noticed, because I live right on Hayden Row, that as things are opening up, I am seeing more and more cars. I mean, there's a time like they put up all the senior teams, all the seniors and everything, and I need to back up to go take a look and get a good picture. And what wound up happening is I was standing in the middle of the road, and it was like, no one's coming around. I can take a nice big wide shot of this all these signs. But now it can't do that. The traffic has started to pick up as things opened up.
When this all first came down, I have a picture of this too. When I first started going to the grocery store, because we do need to eat, although we have a friend of ours. Are you ready for this? They went 5 weeks without going to the grocery store. And then they were going last week, and she thought they could make it for 8 weeks without going to a grocery store.
Wow.
I'm just like, that blows my mind. They are vegetarians, so I think they have a leg up when it comes to doing that. But the first couple of times that I was going to the grocery store that I go to, you can just make out the windows of the door there.
That's Bellingham or Westboro something?
Yes, Bellingham. So it took me 45 minutes the first day to get to the door. And then the second week, it took me 30 minutes. Right. Now, last week, there was no wait. I walked right in and there was nobody there. And then they waved me right in. And I asked them because I was interested, and the person there said that the week before and this week, there did seem to be less of crushes of people at any time. Although the food was still, some things are here that usually aren't, and a lot of things aren't there that usually are. Although I do think that the store that I go to in Bellingham did a really good job at always having something.
Well, that's Market Basket, right?
Yeah.
Because they tend to start. I mean, there's never been a time that I've been in a market basket, any day, any night. They're stocking those shelves all the time. They have the stuff coming and coming. Where you don't see that. You see, like in a Shaw's or a Stop and Shop, with the exception of your chip people and your soda people, whatever, you don't see anyone stocking during the day.
Yeah. And although with Market Basket, I think it's really funny. The shelves are full, but not necessarily with what is supposed to be there. So in the soup aisle, there's this big section of just macaroni and cheese, which is supposed to be 4 aisles over, but they're just keeping the shelves so that they look like they have stuff on them.
Right.
Now, we also should talk about what things are looking like after Governor Baker's plan. I read a lot of headlines, and sometimes I should read the articles too, that all 50 states are in somewhere along the line of doing staged reopenings. So there's a lot of talk about everybody reopening, and I think it's going to be really hard because the step one is 25%. How do you open at 25%?
Right. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have that conversation this afternoon, meeting with the owner of Cordell's, where they've been doing all takeout for Thursday through Sunday, and it's just keeping people. They're doing it for the community more than doing it to make any money, which is great. I mean, they're serving first responders, they're serving doctors and nurses. They're just sending food to these places at no cost, but they're staying open just to keep the people happy. People want this stuff, their products. So now a bar restaurant, their money is in the alcohol sales. Is it going to be worth 25%? So that's 20 people plus staff in your place. Is that worth opening your doors for? Or do you wait later and just keep doing what you're doing? So what's going to happen?
Well, you know what though, but for something like that, something like a liquor store or any store, you can do that and you're fully open. It's just that 25% of the normal capacity. So I went to Lowe's. I had to go to Lowe's for the first time this week, and there was a line outside. And it was kind of cool for them because they have a couple of entrances and a couple of exits. So they're all keeping in touch by some type of electronic device.
Sure.
So there you are. You're open at 25% capacity, and you're just throttling the people coming in to maintain that. I think the difficult part is going to be places that are office spaces. Everybody's gone to the cubes, and just as when Scott Richardson was talking about that, everybody's gone to the small cube so you can see over. And we did that. Several years ago. And boy, if we still had those big ones, we'd be all set.
Yeah, we could put plastic roofs on the top.
I know,
but
I think that's going to be the area where it's people who are working in a collaborative in a business space, trying to get that to 20%.
But I think what you're going to find is the bar scene, which bars are separate from restaurants. That's a later phase. But opening a bar at 25%, you'll have the person that is not just going to go in there for the one beer. He wants to stay a couple hours.
Yeah.
Who's going to wait in line for a situation like that? If it was just all restaurant and no sitting at the bar, well, yeah, now you have yourself a 45-minute or half hour.
Well, you know what?
Wait.
You let in 25% of the people.
Yep.
They're there for a couple hours, then they don't care anymore. Then you let in another 25% of people, and then they don't care anymore. If you know what I mean.
Well, Starbucks, what if they open at 25%? What do they do? Shut off the Wi-Fi so people don't hold their office hours there?
Yes, I think that's definitely going to have to do
That's
that.
what I would do. I would say, no, you can't stay here and have that scone that you got for free and be here for 2 hours.
But Starbucks should be able to exist that way. So much of their business has to be takeout. My wife has that app, and it's crazy. Yeah. We drive out of the house, and she goes, boop, 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 and then she just walks in the door and picks it up and walks out again. They got a really slick system when it comes to takeout.
That's fantastic. That's great to the takeout. But if you want to open up your sit down, Some people don't want to do it.
No, I know, and I just think Starbucks is much more well positioned to survive that than Cornell's is.
Correct. I don't know what the investors would think, though.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be real difficult for somebody that calls themselves a sports bar because there's no sports to watch. And if
There
you
is
only have
NASCAR.
25%, you can't sit at the bar with a person next to you. They have to move 6 feet away. That's going to be very difficult. I can't see them opening at 25%.
I know.
Right.
It's,
Especially when sports comes back.
Yeah. I know the vaccine is going to be so critical. Have you been hearing anything about that?
I'd like to
I've heard a
comment
little
on
bit
that
about that.
because I understand what you're saying about that'll be critical when a vaccine comes back, but what that tells me is we already have a lot of vaccines that individuals have decided not to take advantage of. Every year you hear, you got to get your flu shot. You got to get your flu shot. How many people actually get the flu shot? And then when they get sick with the flu, oh, how come I got sick with the flu? We have a vaccine. And then there are people that have decided that none of the vaccines are worth taking because they're too risky for your health and don't want to do it. So I don't think that getting a vaccine is going to be the answer for everything. If COVID-19 can be as contagious as they say it is, and they can't come up with a way to eradicate it, there's always the chance that you'll have hotspots coming up someplace where they don't have the vaccine or don't use it, especially if people coming from other countries that don't have it or don't use it.
So a couple things about that, and they're really good points. Comparing COVID-19 to the flu is not really an apples to apples kind of comparison, right? Because the flu is very many strains, and the scientists have to really do a guessing game and look at the data and say, we think these strains this year are going to be bad. So that's what, and they can only pick like 4 or 5. Yep. And sometimes they do really well and sometimes they don't. But even when they don't, having the vaccine is a benefit. So, right. And COVID-19, this is a whole different ballgame. This world has never been shut down because of the flu, right? And that's because COVID-19 can be so much more deadly, especially as you're learning in certain populations that have pre-existing conditions. So I think that's going to be a little bit different. And Bob, COVID-19 vaccine comes available tomorrow. Are you going to take it?
Well, I take the flu vaccine every year. So if I don't know. That's a good question because how many vaccines are you going to take? How many vaccines COVID-19 may come back.
Recommended ones.
So I got to take the flu vaccine, the COVID-19, the pneumonia.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
COVID-19 has been proven more deadly in older populations, right? So
I don't know that that's a fact, but I'll accept your fact if you want to say that. I mean, I don't know how many old people died from the Spanish flu. I don't know how many old people died from yellow fever, but I know that a lot of people died from it. Maybe COVID-19 is, but then now you're saying that it's more dangerous to elderly people. But I'd like to know what you're basing that on. The fact that elderly people that live in a nursing home have more of those died. Elderly people that live in a VA home, more of those have died. Elderly people that live in their own homes and take care of themselves, I don't know what percentage of them are affected by it. So it may have the numbers skewed because of the way older people are corrugating?
Isolated?
No.
Quarantining?
Congregating.
Oh, okay.
If you're in an apartment building with 75 other older people, I will grant you that it probably spreads faster and is more devastating.
Well, and you also have the people that are carrying it and not knowing it, that are working to take care of these people that are susceptible. And before all the precautions were in place, then it already started. So, but by putting these precautions out, slowing it down, and shutting down. I think it was worth it. I really do. I think it's worth it.
I think
I agree.
it was so successful.
I do too.
Because, you know, our healthcare system never came close to the breaking point.
And what a test.
What?
What a test of the system.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It's nice to hear that, all right, they're making these hospitals. They bring in the Navy hospital ships and to the big cities. They do all these things. And yet it was nice to know that they weren't over full. Yeah, the local ERs got a little overwhelmed at times, but the system worked. And I thought it worked out well. I think emergency management did a great job.
Even in a state that was in the top 4, at least 5, but I think the top 4 for being a hotspot in this country.
Yeah, thanks, Biogen.
Yeah, you also have your manufacturing, how they all stepped up, stopped producing their products to make masks, to make sanitizer, to make respirators. Well, that was one of the key things. There was this one company, was it Massachusetts? I'm trying to think. Was it Boston Scientific that made a
ventilators? Yeah,
ventilator under $1,000. They made the basic of model, stripped down version that could be used by everybody, and it was under $1,000 instead of the $35,000 models.
Yep,
that's great.
Yeah, but to my way of thinking, the one thing that really made a difference was once, I think what happened was, in my opinion, that it came out and nobody knew what it was, how you got it, where it came from, or what it was going to do. After they started finding out there was a way to test for it, and then they improved on that testing, now they can identify, if you get tested, who has it, where it is, and they know what to do with it. I think in the past, when somebody was identified with COVID-19, no matter how many hundreds of people are around, they all had to prepare for the possibility of getting infected. Now, if they can identify one person, put them in isolation, the other 95 people don't have to worry about it as much.
And I also think that the collecting of the information and the disbursement of the information to the right first responders, emergency management, and so forth helped slow things down as well. Because, you know, being on the fire department, yeah, we knew about the residents. We knew, you know, what addresses had it, so we could take precautions going in there if we had to go there for other reasons. So, but that's just me. Who's dying? Well, let me ask you. I mean, first off, they're not making any movies, but who's dying just to at least see a movie in a theater?
You know what?
Not me.
Not me, not so much. Only because Star Wars is over. Star Trek is not on the horizon. You know, I really enjoy the theater experience for something that has really amazing special effects that just look awesome on the big screen. Other than that, my little screen at home is big enough for me and so much more comfortable.
I just want to sit in a theater, eat that popcorn, and just to sit in a theater seat and watch a good movie. But like I said, there's no good movies coming or on the horizon. And
there were, but
well, yeah, they were exactly. Everything.
All the Marvel movies got pushed back.
Yeah, it'll come back.
They're coming. Like Black Widow was supposed to be released a few weeks ago. I think it was at the beginning of May, or was it still late April? Regardless, it got pushed back to November.
Oh, I'm still devastated over Punisher and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist being canceled. The TV series. Little hurt over that, but
yeah.
I haven't heard, Mike, what condition will the theaters be in when they're allowed to open up? How many people are going to be allowed in? Are they going to have a 25%?
I'm sure they're going to do the social distancing by seat there, and you know, the lines. You know, I don't see the lines anymore except for, you know, the first weekend of a new release that I can remember. Every time I go, I try not to go the first week. I know it drives Jim crazy when he hears that. You know, Star Wars is coming out. Are you going Thursday? Well, don't open until Friday. Yeah, I know, but I'm going Thursday. It's like, wow, that's nice.
Now you're thinking of Matt.
Yeah, Matt gets
the Thursday. He's got an inside track there.
Yeah.
I go.
I did see every Marvel movie opening weekend in Phase 3.
And Mike, how many of his coworkers did he invite to come along with him? That's the only question I have.
I don't know. Where does he work?
He works 10 feet away from me, looking right at me, telling me, "Oh, I'm going to see Star Wars like the night before it's really released." Well,
yeah, and then he has to tell you, because I have a friend that's waiting in line for me to get me tickets, so I don't have to do it. I just wait for him to hand them to me.
I had the tickets. He was just getting our spot in line. That was for Avengers Endgame.
No cuts, no buts.
He had been there for like 2 hours, and I still left work like 3 hours early. I was finished with work. Don't.
Now that this arc of the Marvel movies has finished, how does it feel? Are you like excited for the next arc, or do you feel like it's mostly over?
You know what? I have a little complicated feelings on this. I am excited for what's coming. I think there's a lot of unique and interesting stuff it's coming, but largely for me, and a lot of my friends don't agree with this, I'm good. I had the finale that I had been waiting for. Avengers Endgame is like my favorite movie of all time. It hit me perfectly. It was exactly the movie that I was hoping it was. And if they never made another one, that's sad, but I think I would be okay personally.
Yeah.
But there are more coming out, and we'll see another Avengers movie again someday. And
yeah,
it's going to be good.
How I feel. My son was very disappointed in The Rise of Skywalker because it had a lot of problems. And I can acknowledge all of those problems, but I still enjoyed it. And you know why? Mm-hmm. Because I know it's over. I know it's over. Actors have died. Characters have died. This arc of the Skywalker family is over. So you know what? I was able to just let go and enjoy what was there.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, thank you for joining us for this edition of Geek Week.
Well, let's get back on track with the question from John Ritz on YouTube. Does the fact that home is no longer separated from work or school bother anyone? There's no longer the ability to leave work back at the office if your office is here.
I think, we can only speak personally, and it's definitely hard not being here in the TV studio. It is definitely hard not being able to produce at the quality and the quantity that we typically do. However, as I kept saying, I'm not going to say it fully here again, though. Boy, if we focus on community in a whole new way, haven't we?
Yeah. I tell you, this is something else, and I can see this continuing into the future for not just us, but for everybody. The way businesses will change doing business. No more first class flying for that business meeting. Jump on the Zoom and get it done.
Yeah,
I have to tell you,
your hands around like that, it will change for you. Go ahead.
Well, I have to tell you that for me, as maybe you know, that actually I went to HCAM so I could get out of the house, and now I'm back in it.
All right, real quick before we wrap up, John also wanted to make the comment talking about being immunized. Folks will have passports proving they've been vaccinated or have documented immunity, previous infection and recovery. So he's thinking of all of us, showing an app on our phone. Yeah, look, I've been vaccinated, or some kind of passport.
That's so interesting. What that makes me think of? In the past, we've had situations where people have come from one part of the world to another part of the world and decimated that population because they did not have immunity from all these diseases. And this is the exact same concept on a worldwide level.
Well, I just wanted
to get shots when you go traveling to some areas.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to end on that particular statement, and a good way to segue in is to bring John in to see if he had a further comment. He is connecting up. Just wait for here he is, and let's see what he has to say about it. So, John, tell me, really, do you believe the passport thing is a reality?
Yeah, I think that's you're the whole thing is, if we open it up, you got to prove that people are not going to infect everybody else. So people are going to have to somehow or another prove that they can, that they're okay, that they are not spreading the disease. That's what all this has done, is contain the disease. So,
do you see that carrying on beyond COVID? If they were to actually bring that on, would you see it expanding beyond COVID?
Possibly. I'll go back to the, what you guys were talking about earlier about how COVID is different. The coronavirus is documented as more infectious, more deadly. Yeah, if something else comes up like this, I could see that being expanded.
That's the key, John. Something like this, because we've already had this debate in this country between anti-vaxxers and vaccinators, right? And we've never gotten to where you have to have a passport to prove that you've had all your shots. And this would be different. So I would imagine it would take another worldwide pandemic to make something like that again. No, but anyways, I'm going to cut it short because we're going on to the next one.
Yeah, and John, so now that you're here, I just invited all your guests, and what are we going to be talking about this next half hour?
We are going to be talking about the Timlin race and how they are going to run a race when you can't have people gathered over at the high school.
And who do you have joining you for that? I see people are coming in, and the show is all yours now, John.
Thank you. So we've got a huge crowd of people here. And everybody can start unmuting your microphones, or you can leave them muted until you want to talk or something. Because we have so many people, it's going to be like herding cats a little bit here to make sure we get everything going, but it'll be fun. So with me, I've got, let me go down my list, Stephanie Whalen from the Hopkinton Running Club, and my neighbor, that's why I hauled her in. We've got Rich Kennedy, president of the Angel Fund, Marty Levinson, who's a friend of Rich and a runner who's going to be running for ALS. Who else we have? Abby Rosenberg, who knows the Hangouts very well. Who else? Anne is on. I'm looking at my screens. I'm not seeing Anne. So that's what we've got. So just in general, here's what I was looking to cover, so so we don't walk all over the stuff. I wanted to start with talking about the Timlin race itself and the background and its history, then move into the Angel Fund, and then sort of wind up with the virtual Timlin race and how this is going to go. So let's start with the history of the Timlin race itself. When did it start?
I guess that's the part I'll speak to, and then I'll shut up.
Oh, please don't.
It started this is our 17th year. And 18 years ago, I had just moved to Hopkinton. A very good friend of mine was diagnosed with ALS. I had no idea what ALS was. Asked him, let me do something. He said, help find a cure. So that's what I set out to do. I met up with the Hopkinton Running Club and brought in Stephanie Whalen. She's been on this effort for the full 17 years. She's been, right by my side doing this with me. Mm-hmm. And we just got together a great team. Hopkinton Running Club was here. I had just met all of them, and we started researching places to give the money. And although there's so many great nonprofits that give money toward care or helping people that have ALS financially or otherwise, we really loved the Angel Fund because they're 100% volunteer, and every bit of their money goes toward an actual cure. We just through the Angel Fund, we met, we're blessed to meet the Timlin family because Mike Timlin's mom had passed away of ALS. And I was
going to ask, how did you get what's the connection with Mike Timlin and Hopkinton? And
it was really just the perfect storm. I mean, I guess silver lining. Mike Timlin's mom had recently passed away from ALS. He had joined onto helping the Angel Fund find a cure, and then through Rich Kennedy and Ann Hadley and Bob Brown, all in part of the Angel Fund, we met Mike. And so we've just, all of us here on our team in Hopkinton have been so blessed to get to know all of them. And Rich Kennedy told me for sure, you will never raise any money with a 5K. And we did. So we proved him wrong.
So how many runners did you have the first year?
We had 400 runners. Is that, Stephanie, is that right?
Yeah, a little more than 400, somewhere in the 400s, which is not bad for a first year of a 5K.
And how many did you have last year?
Oh, somewhere in the 1,500 range. We've maxed out a number of years at 1,800, that's the limit that the Hopkinton Police Department gives us. And sometimes we've actually exceeded it a little bit, but not everybody who registers actually shows up to run. So I would say the maximum number that we've had register is over 1,800. The maximum number we've had run is right around 1,800. And in the past few years, we've probably had in the 1,500 range. So this year, before we went virtual, we were at about 167 registered runners. And that was, we always kind of start off in early February when we open up registration. We start out with a bit of a bang, and then things slow down considerably. Nobody's really thinking about running in June. The weather's miserable. And then, of course, this year in mid-March, everything really kind of came to a halt with the pandemic. And we had a handful of registered runners or people register after mid-March. But typically for us, when we start to see things really explode is right around the marathon. People are really thinking about running, especially in Hopkinton. The weather's starting to get nicer. But this year, what happened is when we did decide to take the race to a virtual platform, we went, we instantly at the end of April started to see our numbers rise. And as of today, we're at 568 registered runners. So 400 more than we were just a few weeks ago.
So how much have you raised total over all the years? For how much has the race raised?
I'd say just about, sorry, I'm moving because the lawnmower was loud. Just about 2 million.
Wow. Is that, is that typical for a 5K? Is that above? Is that?
Steph, I don't know.
I don't know for sure, but my guess is that it is considerably more than what you would expect a typical 5K to raise. And the Timlin event is actually much more than a 5K. We have a kids run, used to be like a 1 mile run around the loop road. And then a few years ago, we changed it to a color run. And so that's attracted, anywhere from 200 to 300 children over the years, each year. And we also have a family fun day. We have a raffle silent auction. There's just so much that goes on at our event that contributes to the overall fundraising. So, but yeah,
shows up and plays music.
Yeah, we have live music, food, all kinds of activities for kids. It's just been a very community-oriented, family-oriented event. And we've never really had a complete handle on how many people actually participate in the event because, we can, of course, track the number of people that register for the 5K, the number of children that register for the kids run. But as far as the number of people that actually would show up at the high school, middle school complex and take part in all the activities, I guess our best guess is it was always, around the 3,000 range in total of how many people would participate on the day of the event.
So Abby, Stephanie was telling me yesterday that you've been organizing it, running it all these years. This is the first year you were going to step aside. How far ahead of time do you have to start like really planning for each year?
Usually we, like a core group of us, start planning in September. And, then it ramps up. It's pretty consistent, I'd say, wouldn't you, Steph, throughout the year until the event. And then we usually are so sick of each other that we take a little break and then we come back.
Pretty good. Now I'm wearing my shirt from the 2011 race. I ran it twice now, so it is and the family event at the end is a lot of fun. So we'll miss that this year.
I think for me, and what keeps me involved even now, even though I'm not in charge of it, is that once you have known anyone with ALS, and unfortunately I have, you really feel so strongly about finding a cure. And I think Rich can probably speak the best to this, but it's going to happen. And I expect Rich Kennedy actually to win his age group next year.
Well, that's perfect timing, because I wanted to transition into the Angel Fund and talk about that. Rich, you're going to have to unmute your microphone. And I'm guessing you don't have a camera, because I don't see anything other than your name.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly.
Fantastic.
So,
all right.
Yeah, tell us about the Angel Fund. Give us some history, whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, first of all, you asked what a typical 5K raises. The well-run ones raise somewhere around $5,000 to $10,000. What happens in Hopkinton every year is absolutely extraordinary. I'm so proud to be part of it, and I love to point out just the community feel for the entire thing. Both women are a little bit modest. It's really a remarkable event. The town of Hopkinton has done so much for it, embraced it in just such a way that it's great to see the police show up, the fire show up. Everybody shows up so well. They usually get great weather, but the family aspect of it is really something remarkable. Now, my story, unfortunately, goes all the way back to 1989 when I lost my dad to ALS. Told by the neurologist at the time that there was no positive link with families, and so we kind of stopped worrying about it. So my youngest brother, my brother Jimmy, the youngest of 9, started to have problems, diagnosed with ALS at 28 and dead by 31. That lit a fire underneath me. The first step was to find the world's leading researcher for ALS, and he's right here in our own backyard. This Dr. Robert Brown, Mass General at the time, but now he's at UMass Medical. Thinking I may raise the money for an already existing operation or foundation, I was horrified to find out how little of the money was actually going to the purported cause. It was more toward paying salaries and advertising and things like that. I've always known and grown up that charity is charity. And you don't take for yourself. You don't do it as a job. You simply go for the stated cause. I'm so proud that people like Abby can look and see these people are exactly who they say. I'm surrounded by a board that has never taken a dime. They've all been affected in one way or another by this horrific disease. Moving forward, training for what should have been my 32nd Boston Marathon now 4 years ago, my left leg quit on me, and I kind of knew because you've got that cloud always following you when you've got the family history. Remarkably, I happen to know where we are with the state of research and everything that's going on, and I knew on the horizon was something called gene silencing. I'd been hearing about it for about 7 years, and pure science fiction was my first thought. And remarkably, it's actually come to fruition. I am now through the first phase of gene silencing and already starting to show some improvement.
Great. So the Angel Fund, when you were not the first president and the first originator, when did the Angel Fund start?
Well, the Angel Fund was an idea by the name of a woman by the name of Ginny Del Vecchio. The first year, the first event that I held was a memorial race for my brother Jimmy, and we intended to raise $20,000. We actually raised $25,000. I was quoted in several papers saying that whatever we raise is going to go directly to the stated cause, and that's Dr. Brown's lab. This was picked up by one of Ginny's sons, who read it in the Globe or the Herald, I can't remember which one, and said, "Dad, you've got to meet this guy." So sadly, Ginny passed away from ALS herself about 6 days after the very first Jimmy Kennedy Memorial Run. But what's happened is that's introduced me to her family, and together we came forward and actually formed the Angel Fund.
So Marty, your involvement with all this, you're a runner.
Well, I used to be. I still dabble. My involvement is growing up in Quincy with the Kennedy family, knowing Richard since 10th grade, helping him with the first squirrel run. And also I have a twin brother who lives in Hopkinton. So I know all these wonderful people, and also running on behalf of the Angel Fund for in the marathon last year. And I plan to do it again this year until all this stuff started happening.
So your training for the marathon got interrupted by all of this. Have you had to do a hard reset and do you start from scratch? I ran one marathon long ago, the other Boston Marathon. So
well, right now I don't know what the hell I'm doing because it's up in the air and I don't even know if it's going to happen. So I'm trying to maintain my focus, and my focus is less on running than the Angel Fund. Sure. And last year we were able to raise. We had a team, and I was able to raise about $33,000, which the response from friends who I grew up with who know Rat and his family was incredible. So I was hoping to match that this year. But like I said, I've known him forever. I had both hips replaced several years ago, and he helped get me back to health and train me for running the marathon. I've run 4 since, and he and I are going to regroup and just figure out what the next steps are.
So how do people contribute to your run?
Stephanie helped me with that and got me set up on a page, and response has been pretty good, hasn't it, Stephanie?
It has, yeah. Marty has, so you're about halfway to where you were last year. I think the most recent total is around 15,600 or so that Marty has raised, which is extraordinary. And, you know, again, with everything that's been happening with the pandemic, I would say that your donations, the donations to your fundraising page, slowed down and almost came to a halt probably around that mid-March timeframe. So hopefully with, you know, the future looking a little bit brighter now that things are reopening, that you'll be able to start to see some more funds come in. But that in and of itself, I mean, $15,600, that's a lot of money to be raised by one person who's running the Boston Marathon for the Angel Fund, for any cause. So we're very grateful for that.
Once there's clarity on what's going to happen with Boston, then I really stopped sending out solicitations because everybody's lives was upended. And I think you're right. Once there's some clarity on what happens next, I can start soliciting again.
Yeah, they were just talking yesterday that September may not happen either. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
You know, yeah, and I'm being fairly pessimistic about that just because you can't cram 30,000 people into a small space just like you have in Hopkinton. But I predict that the response will be just as good to the fundraising because people care about the Angel Fund. As Abby said, anybody who knows anybody who's touched by ALS, they respond in very generous ways. So as sad as it would be not to be able to run, keeping our eye on the prize, which is to raise money for the Angel Fund, I think is going to still continue.
It's not like the old days of fundraising events where you had to prove that you actually ran the miles or swam the laps or things like that, that the donations are there regardless of folks. So that's a good thing. I hope it keeps going. So is the link Marty's page on the Timlin Run page?
You know, I don't know that it is. We have a donation, a vehicle on our website to be able to raise or to donate. And we have other fundraisers that are not running the marathon, but Marty has his own page, and we should actually fix that. That's a really good point. We can put a link there. Marty's page is you probably know the exact link for it. But it's yeah, I'm going to look it up right now, but it's on Run Sign Up, and I will find it for you. But it's Marty Runs Down ALS is his tagline.
If you type that in, you'll come right up to the page. And there's some little backstory on my relationship with Rat, what we've done over the years. There's some nice pictures on there, and a little sense on where the money's going to. And there's actually a video of him speaking to how the money's used.
So let's move into the virtual Timlin Run. So obviously things have changed. We can't all gather down at the high school and run around and party afterwards. So how is it going to run this year? How's it going to go?
So people can register up until noon on the day of the race, which is Saturday, June 20th, exactly a month from today. It would be awesome if people register today because this is our deadline for ordering T-shirts and personalized bibs, race bibs. We may be able to provide them after today, and we should be able to provide at least the T-shirts. But we always try to have a good idea of how many to order. And this being our first virtual year, it's a little hard to know. So to play it safe, we'd love for people to register today, but certainly up until June 20th at noon. So the way it's going to work is people can run, they can walk, they can hand cycle, they can skip, they can really do whatever they want, wherever they want, other than the Timlin race route, because we're trying to avoid gathering, large crowds together. But they could do it on a treadmill, they could do it on a trail, any route that they choose. And they can do it ideally the day of the race between 7 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. But we know that sometimes that doesn't quite work out for people. So if they want to do their 3.1 miles in the days leading up to the 20th, that's totally fine with us. This is not, it's not a competitive thing. It's really about the cause and, getting people together to, to focus on something positive and do something, like families. It's a perfect weekend for families because Father's Day is the 21st. So, get the family out together, running, walking, or doing whatever they want. We did introduce a new feature on our registration this year, and that, or actually not even this year, just specifically for the virtual 5K, where we're offering a family discount. So an individual can register for $30, but a family of 4 or 5 can register for a package deal of $99. So that works out to, around $20 per person if you're registering 5, and about $25 per person if you're registering 4. So it's a great deal. Everybody gets the T-shirt and the nice customized bib.
We were saying this has a nice advantage that, as you're saying, you can now participate from everywhere. In previous years, you had to come to Hopkinton, but now you were saying the Timlin family is excited about being to participate from wherever they are. Do you see this moving forward, this virtual option sticking around in future years?
Yeah, it's and we were talking about how, like with anything that initially can be very disappointing, or you can be viewed in a negative way, that there's always a silver lining. And I think certainly in this case, the silver lining is that you don't have to live nearby to participate in this event. You can live virtually anywhere. So the Timlin family Mike and Dawn and their children live in Colorado, but Mike has family members that live in Texas and Florida and other parts of the country. And they've always been great about coming out and participating. They always have probably about 20 people, I think, Abby, that come out and participate every year. So it's so important to their family. But this year we have so many people from Colorado, so many people from Texas, so there are people that support the cause, but haven't been able to travel to participate in the 5K. And then more locally, there was a gentleman by the name of Bill Wexler, who was a much loved guidance counselor at Holliston High School. And his family had a connection with ALS. I believe Bill's mother had passed away from it. And then sadly, Bill was diagnosed and also passed away. But his family, like the Kennedy family, like the Timlin family, just so committed to this cause. And they've had a large team that has participated by running, walking, and having a fundraising team. Well, one of Bill's sons, Stephen, and I were speaking the other day over email, and he is so excited because he has spread the word, and now he has family members and friends that from all around the country that have signed up and have donated. So he said, can we do this virtual thing in future years? And honestly, I think we should. Why not? There's no downside to it. So
how do people register?
I'm sorry, say that again, John.
How do people register?
So they can go to our website, which is www.sharontimlinrace.org, and they can find out all kinds of information, and they can register at the inspirational message for people around, and we'll have.
Are there any points?
Research. It is incredible to me that it's actually happening at this point, and we point to events like the Timlin race, which put us where we are on the map. So thank you to everybody.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to put a plug in who the person behind all of this, as well as Stephanie. I've really taken quite a step back this year, but April Gallinick, who's also a Hopkinton resident, has just stepped up tremendously with Stephanie and doing all of this planning. So just a shout out to her as well.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because April has been amazing, just stepping up and doing so much to make sure that this event is going to be, pulled off well.
Great. Well, thank you all for participating and spreading the word on the Timlin race. I'm going to hand things back to the HCAM crew to lead us out here.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity, John. Appreciate it.